Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Black, and just want to say, first of all, thanks for coming to hang out with me for 40 minutes after lunch this afternoon. Hope everybody is digesting your food or not too sleepy. If you are, it's okay. I'm still glad you're here. I'm a freelance writer and a credit expert. I'm a book nerd, probably like a lot of other writers in the room, and I've always loved writing. I've been writing professionally for a long time, but for 17 years, I wrote a lot for a business that I owned. And then probably 8 or 9 years ago, I started ghostwriting for a lot of other business owners that I knew. And when I came to FinCon last year, I came because I was at a point in my other business that I knew it was time for a big change. It just got to where writing was my favorite part of the day, and I only did that on the side of the other company I owned. So this little piece of my day was my favorite part. It's what I looked forward to the most, and I decided that I wanted to shift and transition from that being just a side gig and a part-time thing into my full-time career. So I came to FinCon last year for the first time and just had a lot of questions. I wanted to meet other successful freelance writers, and every one of them that I met, my questions were, how did you do it? How did you make the transition? You know, what advice do you have? What steps should I take? And so this year, when it was time to submit ideas for talks, I was like, oh, absolutely. I know there's other people that have these exact same questions that I had, whether it's exactly freelance writing or whatever it is you're wanting to transition to. Just kind of the nuts and bolts of how to do that, how to move from doing something that you really enjoy on the side and transitioning into where that is your full-time source of income. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. The good news is I did crack the code. I transitioned into a full-time freelance writing business less than 4 months after FinCon last year. It was a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Not only that, but by month 4 of the process, I was actually earning 4 times what I did in my former business, which was really a very cool added bonus for me. I was very excited about that. And today I'm going to just kind of break down some of the steps that I took to turn my goal into my reality. That's not to say that my process or the steps I followed is the only way to do this, but it worked for me, and I'm very happy to share what worked for me and see if you can glean any pointers that you might be able to apply and that might work for you as well. So before we get started, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about who the heck is Michelle Black, because I see a lot of new faces in here, and kind of why I'm up here giving you advice. So although I am new to kind of the world of full-time freelance writing, as I said, I do have 17 years of experience as a writer and a credit expert. In the past year, I have had the privilege of being published by some really cool outlets like Bankrate, Experian, The Points Guy, Lending Tree, NAV, Credit Card Insider, Forbes, MSN, and some others. I feel very fortunate, again, to have had that experience. And while I'm still kind of a recovering workaholic, type A, competitive overachiever, the titles I hold that mean most to me are wife and mom. As you can see my beautiful family up there. My husband, Donald, and I have been married for 17 years, and we have 2 8-year-old kids, Nate and Gabby. The story of how we became parents is one of my favorite stories to share, and I'm going to share it with you, but I'll try to keep it short today. I could probably talk for 40 minutes about this, so I won't bore you with that. I'll keep it short. Our kids are not twins, as you can see. They're only 8 months apart in age, though you would never know it. My son is he's 8, but he's like this tall, and my daughter's about the normal height of an 8-year-old. Nate is very tall. Donald and I had been married for 7 years when we started trying to start our family, and it just wasn't an easy road for us. We went through miscarriages, fertility treatments, and just years of trying and failing to start a family. Before we had ever gotten married, Donald and I had already talked about adoption. That's something that kind of was always in our hearts, something that we wanted to do. So when our medical team told us, it's not in the cards for you, you're not going to have a baby naturally, it was okay. It was a normal transition for us to say, all right, that's fine. It's time to adopt. In my head, we were always going to do it anyway. We were just going to have a biological child first and adopt second. And I'm an overthinker, as I think I've mentioned. The kind of reasoning behind my thought process there is I wanted to have a biological child first because I always wanted to tell my future adoptive child that I had a biological child and I chose you afterwards. Again, just an overthinker. I don't think that matters. I really don't think it does, because I now through this process have friends that have adopted children in dozens of different ways, and as long as you love your baby, they don't care. But so anyway, we already wanted to adopt, and we talked about it that week when the doctors kind of gave us the blow of, sorry, it's not going to happen for you. You can't have kids. So we were like, okay, it's time that we take this seriously. We're ready to look into adoption. But we didn't take any actual steps yet. We said it out loud. We kind of made the decision in our hearts, and then that was it. I did go out to lunch with a friend that week. Her name is Terry. And we were just having lunch, and I mentioned to Terry that Donald and I have decided we're ready to adopt. And, we're going to probably go meet with an adoption agency or something. I had to look into it. We hadn't actually, as I said, taken an actual first step yet other than the conversation. And Terry tells me, oh, that's awesome. Her 23-year-old daughter, who lived several hours away in a different state, was actually 6 months pregnant. I had never met her before. And she was choosing to place her child for adoption, her unborn son. I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's a really brave decision. And that was it. We just had a conversation about it. Well, that same night, I'm at home and I get a call on my cell phone, and it's Ashley. It's the birth mother. And she says, I hope it's okay. My mom gave me your number. And we talked for 30 minutes on the phone. And Ashley shares with me a story of how she had gone to several adoption agencies, and she had narrowed down several families as potential families for her unborn son, and she just couldn't make a choice. She wasn't at peace. She hadn't been able to choose a family for where he was supposed to go. And at the end of the call, she says a statement that I still just remember as clear as if it was yesterday. She says, this is why I haven't been able to choose a family yet. He's supposed to be with you. And so probably 2 days later, my husband and I are sitting in a doctor's office with Ashley, watching an ultrasound and hearing our son's heartbeat for the first time. This was in the space of 3 or 4 days total. I mean, it was just fast. It was a whirlwind. I have friends who I know tried for years to adopt. It doesn't happen like that. This was, in my opinion, miracle number one. And believe it or not, the story actually gets a little bit better from there. We have a baby on the way. Ashley's pregnant. We've got about a little less than 4 months to prepare. And the night before she's going to be induced with our son, I was sick. I was really miserable. I thought I had the flu. And we're up, painting the nursery, because, I don't know, again, overthinker, overplanner. I want everything perfect when the baby comes home. And so I go take a pregnancy test, and I had these things in bulk because we'd been trying. I still had a stash in my cabinet from when we had been trying for so long, for so many years. So I still had one in the cabinet. I take a pregnancy test, and lo and behold, I was pregnant with ultimately our daughter, Gabby. So they are 8 months apart in age, and that was our kind of miracle number 2. We went from a no-child home to a two-child family very quickly. And so kind of to bring this story full circle, I just love spending time with my kiddos, and the desire to have more flexibility, to just be around more, was probably the chief driving factor that was my why, was my reason that I wanted to transition into full-time freelance writing. Not that you don't still have to work hard, because any writer in here will tell you that you do have to, but I wanted that flexibility in my schedule that my other career wasn't giving me. So today I'm going to cover kind of how I made that happen, how I made that transition happen. I'm going to talk about 3 different areas. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how I transitioned from part-time to full-time freelance writer within 4 months after FinCon of 18. From goal setting, those are like the initial goals I set at the beginning, how I overcame doubts and got out of my own way, and then actual steps I took to reach my initial business goals. The second thing I'm going to talk about with you guys today is how I then connected with more clients and tried to increase my workload. And that came a lot from networking with other writers and bloggers and from pitching brands. And then finally, I'm going to cover how I then quadrupled my income in 4 months with things like being a team player and really striving to make my editors' lives easier, making contact monthly with my editors and clients, setting daily income goals, and then tracking those goals as well, and then finally continued education and networking. Regardless of what, So I'm going to start with how I transitioned from part-time to full-time freelance writing with goal setting. This exercise can really work for any type of business goal or a personal goal for that matter. So you might want to increase your income. You might want to create a course or a product or help generate some passive income. You might want to grow your blog or launch a YouTube channel. Or you might be exactly where I was last year and want to rapidly grow your freelance writing business. Regardless of what the finish line looks like in your mind, you'll get there a lot faster if you'll take the time to first write out and define your goals. That's what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. And when you're setting your goals, I highly recommend that you find somewhere to write them out. There's a ton of ways to do this. You can use a vision board, a desk calendar, an organization or planning app. But it should be something that you're going to look at frequently, like every work day. And you start with your big goals, and then from there we're going to break them down into baby steps. But right now we're just going to talk about the big goals. My big goals last year were kind of in 3 parts. My big picture goal, I wanted to pick up enough freelance writing work to replace my other job. I had a flexibility goal, as I already mentioned. I wanted a more flexible work schedule that would let me spend a lot more time with my family. And then my initial financial goal was to earn $4,000 on the side extra during month 1 after FinCon, and then try to ramp up my earnings from there. So this was on the side of my other job. And FinCon last year ended, I made this goal a little aggressive for me. It was a little aggressive for me. FinCon ended right at the beginning of October last year, and so my goal was in October. Like in October, I wanted to earn an extra $4,000 on the side of my other income, and like I said, ramp up from there. That goal did push me a little bit, so I do recommend trying to set something, not necessarily that's out of reach, but that pushes you out of your comfort zone just a little. If it's really comfortable and you feel like, no problem, I've got this, I would say adjust your sights, just aim a little bit higher. It's good to stretch yourself. So one of the first things I had to do in order to reach those goals is I had to overcome doubts and really try to get out of my own way. This one was a little tough for me, to be totally honest. It's not as if I had never thought about writing full-time before. I didn't just wake up one morning and have this epiphany like, oh, I'd love to be a freelance writer full-time and do nothing else. I'm going to go to FinCon and make it happen. No, I had years where I thought, I'd like to do this full-time. And I constantly kind of would think about the reasons why the timing wasn't quite right, or why I should wait, or why it wouldn't work for me yet. I struggled with doubts that probably a lot of other writers have faced at one point or another. I already did ghostwriting as a side gig, so I knew there was potential there, but I wasn't confident that I could count on the income. I wasn't sure if the work would be consistent, Could I support my family on freelance writing alone? I had to fight back imposter syndrome. I had to try to shut down, worries about failure. And then there was also a part of me that felt like I needed to have everything figured out before I started, right? This is when I really had to fight through. I was weighing out, should I set up my new business as an LLC? Do I need the S Corp, designation? Where should I open my business bank account? Should I handle my own payroll taxes? Should I hire someone else? Do I need to set up a separate online portfolio before I start looking for new work? And how exactly do I do that as a ghostwriter? Because I can't share as a ghostwriter really who I've worked for. So constantly trying to think about how do I solve these problems and not actually getting started. This was one of the big obstacles I had to try to overcome. And these types of business decisions are important. I'm not trying to downplay and say you don't need to figure this stuff out, but you don't want to get so bogged down in these tiny little details that you get stuck in the mud and you never go anywhere with your business. So I want to actually share a little cartoon with you that I stole. I ripped it off from Holly Johnson, but I think it describes this problem perfectly. The cartoon is about a little fox and a little rabbit, and they're going to plant a garden. So the little fat fox comes out and he says to the rabbit, "Starting a garden?" "Yep," says the rabbit. "Me too," says the fox. Can you tell I have kids with my reading voice here? Maybe I should buy a fence first. Meanwhile, the rabbit's over here planting away his garden. And I think I need a sprinkler system. Meanwhile, the rabbit is pruning the weeds and watering his plants. "Whoa, what is your secret?" asked the fox as the flowers start popping up out of the ground. Starting, says the rabbit. "Oh, that makes sense." So it's a silly little cartoon, but it really does sum up how we can sabotage our own success as entrepreneurs by overthinking and overplanning sometimes. I heard a statement one time that an entrepreneur is someone who will jump out of an airplane and figure out how to build a parachute on the way down. That's a little crazy, that's a little extreme, but some of the most successful people really do that. They set a goal and they just go for it and figure it out. I'm not saying you don't have to plan, but you don't want to let those plans get in the way of your success. Looking back, I do have one regret after making the leap from part-time writer to full-time freelancer. I regret waiting. If I could go back in time, if I could get the Back to the Future DeLorean and go back in time a little bit, I would have started acting like the rabbit in this cartoon a whole lot sooner than I did. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Another thing I did to help me transition from part-time to full-time freelance writer in 4 months is I made some really great connections. And of course, a lot of them started right here at FinCon, so you guys are in a great place to start with that. I knew when I came to FinCon in 2018 that it was important to meet 2 types of people that I could help in a professional capacity, so clients, potential clients, but also people that I could network with and learn from. For the first group of people, those that I could learn from, I concentrated on finding other freelance writers that were established and picking their brains. How did they transition to full-time freelance writing? What suggestions did they have for me? Who were the OGs in the group that had a ton of experience? And I tried to connect with these people. I know you don't always have a ton of time at FinCon, to become BFFs with everyone that you meet. You may come off a little weird if you try sometimes too. I probably came off a little weird a few times. But it's okay. You really don't even have to do that. You can just go up, introduce yourself, try to make a memorable impression, and then connect with people on social media and build a relationship through the years and learn from them. Learning with a pro doesn't mean you have to sit down with them for 8 hours and have them help you hold your hand and map out your business strategy for the next year. It's the connection you make that's the most important. The second group of people I wanted to meet were brands who were looking to hire freelance writers. And so when I met with brands, I naturally wanted to see who was looking for new content for their websites. Did anyone in here get to attend the freelance marketplace? Good, quite a bit. So at the freelance marketplace, there were tables out with a ton of different companies that were looking for freelance writing help. If you missed it, there's still people here that you can network with, still brands here, and you can find them online. But if you did get a chance to go to the freelance marketplace, these are great connections of people for you to follow up with later. Here is the good news for any of the fellow overthinkers in the audience. A lot of websites need content every single month to keep up with their marketing goals. So there is plenty of work to go around for writers. You don't have to worry about stepping on other writers' toes. I was in a session this morning with an editor from Motley Fool, and they are looking to hire 100 new freelance writers here. I forget the time frame. I don't know if anybody else was in the session, but within the next few months. So there are plenty of jobs to go around. But I did personally have a bit of an obstacle to overcome. My obstacle may be a little different than some of yours in the room, but I'm just going to walk you through the process of how I solved it, because it's more important to look at the overall premise of kind of identifying whatever your obstacle is and figuring out how to fix it or how to get over it than focusing on it myself. I don't know that anybody else in the room has only a ghostwriting portfolio like me. That's kind of a little unique, weird situation I had found myself in. But I was a ghostwriter. I had a ton of writing experience that worked in my favor. So I was confident that I knew how to write. And I was confident I actually knew what a lot of these brands were looking for because I had done it, but I had done it, for others. I couldn't share my clips with anybody because as a ghostwriter, you don't do that. So I had all this experience, but I couldn't go up to other brands and be like, I'd love to contribute. I have all this experience. And then when asked, oh, well, I can't show you any of it, right? That doesn't come off great. So I had to come up with kind of solutions to show that I knew what I was talking about, what I was saying, even though I couldn't actually show a portfolio. So my solution was to actually create a physical and a digital portfolio. I had an online website, which at the time didn't really even have a blog attached to it, because it was only out there, again, for other businesses to hire me as a ghostwriter. It had a couple of posts. I added a few new good posts to it that were similar to topics I had covered for other websites in the past. All right, so some great personal finance pieces, some great pieces about mortgages, about how credit works, credit reporting, credit scoring, credit cards. I put those out there. I picked my 5 favorites. I printed them out. I made a nice little cover letter about my experience ghostwriting, and then I put it all together in a folder with my business card, and I had actual paper portfolios last year to hand out at FinCon. I don't even think I needed that, but it made me feel better. It made me feel like I had a solution. I'm not sure how many brands even looked at my little thing that I brought, but it made me feel better. And then I did send people, when I followed up, kind of samples of that work, and it just got me in the door with people that were editors that were willing to give me a shot and let me write a test piece. So again, even if you have a different problem, the main thing is just to kind of think about what the answer is to that, to anticipate what the pushback might be or what the question might be or whatever you anticipate the question might be. Sometimes it might not even be something that the editor really wants to know, but you'll feel more at peace if you go ahead and address whatever that obstacle is in your mind. Finally, one thing I did, and that we can all do, is I acted a lot more confident than I felt. Again, that self-doubt sometimes or imposter syndrome will whisper in all of our ears from time to time. And so I tried to just put those thoughts down when they would come up and focus on the qualities that I did feel good about, feel confident about in myself, and take those with me into meetings or conversations with editors, and that was really helpful as well. I'm also going to get into now how I connected with more clients and increase my workload. So I've talked a lot about how FinCon 2018 was a springboard for my freelance writing career. because it was. And the conference was great, but it was only a first step. If I would have stopped at FinCon and not continued to follow up with the people I had met and the community I'd gotten to know, I think my career would probably be roughly in the same spot that it was before. It was the follow-up afterwards that was key. It didn't really feel like work. It just felt like getting to know some cool, like-minded people a little better. But on screen, you'll see some ideas of ways that I continued to network with other writers and bloggers after FinCon ended. Who in here is a member of the FinCon Facebook group? Just about everybody. If you're not, I would suggest going online and requesting to join the FinCon Facebook group today. There's constant posts on there from people in the FinCon community. If you're looking to increase your freelance writing workload, there are posts on there from time to time of websites that are looking to hire people. And also just other experienced freelance writers are on there that you can learn from. So I would definitely recommend that. Depending on where you live, there may be a FinCon local meetup near you as well. I know you can go to the FinCon website and they have a lot listed that'll tell you like which cities this is available in. So the FinCon local meetups are great. It's a good way to connect with people in your town. If you're a newbie, you'll be welcome. And if you're not a newbie, of course, you're welcome too. And then, of course, social media is a great way to stay connected with other writers throughout the year that you've met at FinCon or elsewhere. Twitter and Instagram are my favorites. I find that writers especially tend to be most active on those websites. Yes?
How does Instagram translate in writing stuff?
I know a lot of fellow freelance writers that are on Instagram, so it's more about the connecting with other freelance writers. And
they're not posting stuff about their work, you're just becoming friends.
But I have gotten leads from my fellow freelancing friends. So we develop these relationships, and I don't know how many this year, probably 5 or 6 leads I've gotten, many of which have become actual, like, good paying clients that have been referred to me by other friends that I have, freelance writing friends that I've made, through FinCon. So I know it's just kind of staying in contact with them, just being friends online, but that relationship I think is important too.
But you're posting what, like your typical pictures of your family and whatnot?
It depends. That's why I don't recommend Facebook so much. If you're hanging out with somebody and you actually have a close friendship with them, sure. But if it's someone you don't know super well, no, they may not be comfortable, friending you on Facebook. It just depends. Everybody's different. I post things about work or what I'm doing on my blog. I don't know. Everybody posts different things on social media. On Twitter, I post a lot about work. So I post different things on different platforms. But again, it's just more to make that connection. And I have referred out work to a lot of other people that I stay connected with throughout the year as well. That I'm friends with in real life, but we live in different cities. So we stay connected through the year via social media. And these are people I didn't know before last year, for the most part, with one exception that I can think of. And if it was a gig that I couldn't do because I happened to be too busy, or, the rate. As a freelance writer, as you progress in your career, you should hopefully constantly be trying to raise your rate to get higher paying gigs. And so if it was a rate that was below what I'm charging now, I happily refer that out to other newer freelance writers who are still trying to build their rates or build their portfolios. And absolutely, the people I share this with is people that I'm connected with online and that I know. And a lot of them typically share their posts from time to time, so I know they're a decent writer. Like, I've seen what they do in their posts. So I know enough about them that I'm comfortable saying, hey, go check this out. That might be a good fit for you. So that one's actually one of my favorite ways to stay connected, is social media. And then there's another good resource, and it's called the Earn More Writing Community. Holly Johnson, she has created a course for freelance writers. I believe it's earnmorewriting.com. And I know several people in here. Who's taken Holly's course in here? So several. A couple of things. The course itself is great. It'll give you lots of tips. Even if you've written for a long time, I still learned and picked up a lot of great things from the course. But most valuable, I believe, is her Facebook group that you get to join and be a part of. And that is strictly other people who have purchased the course. So it's primarily other freelance writers that you can network and communicate with. Holly gets on there and shares tips and advice constantly, income reports. It's a great place to both learn and make connections. So I highly recommend that one as a good source for networking. And then this, pitching brands, this is one of the biggest keys, I would say, to my success. I actually, post FinCon, I pitched 100 brands in 30 days. Sounds a little crazy. It was a little crazy. It was 5 brands a day, 5 days a week for 1 month, 5 business days, right? Some days I would fall behind on the goal. Let's say on a Monday I could only pitch 3 brands. That doesn't mean I just said, oh, well, I didn't get to the other 2. That meant on Tuesday I needed to pitch 7. Or if worse came to worse, on the weekend, I would catch up. But I tried not to roll into the next week until I had pitched my 25 for the week. It was easy to get started because I started with the connections I made at FinCon. You're going to follow up with the cards, the people that you met at FinCon. If you haven't already, on the cards you've collected, you can make notes on the back of your cards. You can make notes in your phone about who you talked with. Little personal notes are great. It can be something as simple as, a shared love of a sports team. Matt is a University of Texas fan. Go Longhorns. Or it can be something as simple as met at the Freelancer marketplace. But when I would craft my follow-up emails, I kind of crafted a standard one, but I would personalize the first paragraph. And I tried to say something personal, something about where we met. Hey, Matt, we met at the Freelancer marketplace. I'm the other smart girl who likes the Longhorns like you, or something. And then basically would follow up about, you said, you guys might be looking for some other freelance writers. I would talk a little bit about why I might be a good fit. And I would attach like a sample page with samples of my work, usually just like a 1-page thing. You have to be careful with this because you don't want to be too aggressive and come off too pitchy. So I do recommend keeping that first email short. That's why even my sample page of work, it was always just 1 page or less because you can always follow up again later. But that's one way I did. And then when I ran out of the connections I made at FinCon, I also started pitching gigs that were posted in other Facebook groups. A little bit with job boards, especially if you're getting started. LinkedIn ProFinder, if you don't already have a profile with them, that's a good place to pick up some work. Contently is pretty good. I'm not a big fan of Upwork, and I'm not a big fan of Upwork, but if you're in the stage where you're building your portfolio, that's okay. But they tend to try to underbid each other, and the rates tend to be pretty low on Upwork. So I would recommend if you get started there to try to graduate from Upwork as quickly as you can. You don't want to get stuck in that rut. And I am going to have time for some questions at the end, so if you don't mind, just queue up your questions, and I'm going to try to leave some time here at the very end. And then guest posts. If you absolutely need to build a portfolio, you can do some guest posts on other websites. Finally, another thing that I did to help increase my income was I really strive to be a team player, and this is something I still try to do. So if you do write for clients, you want to do everything in your power to make your editor's life as easy as possible. You just want to try to put yourself in that other person's shoes. Be willing to go above and beyond to make their life a little easier. Some ideas for that are responding to emails promptly. You never want to miss a deadline. If you fall behind, That puts stress on your editor. It causes them issues. And I know we all have life and things come up, but the more low maintenance and easy to get along with you are, the better. I said earlier that there are plenty of freelance writing jobs to go around. There are, but some of the better gigs, the higher paying gigs, like if you get a hold of one of them and you're fortunate enough to, be grateful and don't take it for granted. Like you wanna hang on to that as well. It's much easier to keep a good editor happy and to keep that job than to have to pitch and try to get some new work. Plus, you don't want to get a bad reputation as, the writer that's difficult to work with. Don't submit sloppy work. There's a lot of good tools out there. Of course, proofread your own work, but there's a lot of good tools out there that can help with this, from Grammarly to even just basic Microsoft Word. It'll search for like your number of passive sentences. It even has a read out loud feature where it will read it back to you and help you catch things that maybe you won't catch if you're just reading it in your mind. And if your editor has a style guide or an outline, be sure to read that and reread that and make sure you're following the directions. And of course, if you get edits or feedback, just accept that and be willing to grow. It's easy to get your feathers ruffled if someone gives you a negative critique, but really that's the best way to improve as a writer. You can also reach out to your editors and clients monthly to let them know you're available to write, but you don't want to be a pest, so I'd say once a month is plenty to say, hey, is there anything you could use help with this month? I'm available. Some editors like it when you pitch them story ideas. That once a month contact is a great time to do that as well. So I've got a quote up here that I really like, is if you want to turn a wish into a if you want to turn a wish into a goal, it needs to be specific and measurable. So here are some action steps I took to quadruple my income. I set daily income goals. I figured out my monthly money goal. Let's say it's $10,000. I divided it by 20 days. Okay, that's working business days. So if it's $10,000, I would divide that by 20 days, and that means I needed to earn $500 a day. As far as tracking, you may laugh. I keep it super simple. There's tools, there's digital tools you can use for this, but I use a uber basic planner that I get on Amazon every year for $32. And I break down and track in this planner 3 different figures. Daily income, that's how much I earned for the day. Monthly income, that's the monthly money that I've earned month to date. And then monthly goal, that's how far or above or below I am for my goal that month. And I'll show you. Don't laugh. I told you, it's real low tech. But it keeps me on track, and it lets me adjust daily if I need to. So for this particular month in question, my daily income was $700 here. My goal this month was $800 a day. So actually, I didn't earn my goal that day, but I had earned more previously. I was ahead. For the month to date, I had earned $6,652, and I was $52.35 above my monthly goal, above where I should be for that time that month. I'm just going to skip over that because we're running out of time. These are the actual income figures that I earned. My initial goal was $4,000 during month 1 after FinCon, and I wanted to ramp it up from there. So the reason I set $4,000, that was my approximate monthly earnings at my former job. And so month 1 after FinCon, I doubled my goal. I was really excited. I earned $8,234 on the side of my other, this was part-time, on the side of my other job. As you can see, month 2, that did not happen. In November, I did not reach that goal, but I wasn't discouraged because I was still following up with a ton of leads. I still had a lot of promising job opportunities. It takes a while sometimes to onboard with clients, so I was still trucking. I still saw the opportunity. Month 3, the income started to swing back up, $7,009, and that was December, which is traditionally a slower time of year. And then month 4, which was January, as you can see, it all started to really come together. This was 1 month of earnings, $16,085, which for me just felt phenomenal. And then by February, it increased even more, $21,343. And I share these figures today not to brag. My friends and family at home have no idea how much I earn. I still drive the same old truck. I still live in the same little house. I just share this because I was sitting there last year and kind of had a goal and had a dream of turning my life around. And I'm really excited that FinCon gave me a springboard and an opportunity to do just that. And I really believe with the right plan and the right tracking that any one of you can do it too. I just think the only limits we put on ourselves, or the only limits we face, are really the ones that we put on ourselves.